My name is Owen Carter. I am 37 years old, and until a few months ago, I worked as a senior technician at Whittaker Weather Station in southwestern Alaska. If you are listening to this, it is because the automatic transmission has finally reached the network. I don't want to sound dramatic, but if anyone can hear this, know that I haven't gone crazy. Not completely. It all started in December last year. We were in the midst of one of the most unstable seasons we had ever recorded. Storms that came out of nowhere, winds cutting through the sky like blades, and an absurd drop in atmospheric pressure in regions that technically should not have had any abnormal activity. That's when NOAA assigned us to continuous monitoring. 3 people at the base: me, Rookie Jace, and Dr. Evelyn Murakawa, a climatologist sent straight from headquarters in Anchorage. Whittaker has always been remote. The station is a reinforced concrete block buried in ice, 60 kilometers from the nearest town. There are no roads. You can only get there by helicopter when the weather permits, or by snowmobile if you have the courage and little sense. But what no one tells you is that the cold is not the worst enemy. Silence is. The silence that stares back at you, that swallows your thoughts, that turns boredom into paranoia. In the early hours of the 17th, Evelyn woke me up. She didn't shout, she didn't bang on the door. She just turned on the lights in my room with a look that sent shivers down my spine. "Owen, look at this." We went to the main room. 3 of our radars were receiving duplicate data. It was as if the same cloud was being detected in 2 different locations, with the same shape, same pressure, same mass, but in different geographical positions. That alone would be a bizarre error, but it wasn't an error. It was a pattern that repeated with mathematical precision, as if something were testing our ability to perceive the absurd. She showed me the thermal images. It was as if something was duplicating itself in the sky. A reflection? An echo? Evelyn didn't want to name it. She just said it wasn't natural. 3 hours later, the sky darkened. But it wasn't night. There were no clouds. It was as if the sky had turned off, as if something had placed a membrane between us and the firmament, and it had no end.
At the station, we experienced power outages. Nothing new, but that week, the outages seemed specific. The power went out at 4:18 a.m., came back on at 4:21 a.m., then at 5:02 a.m., came back on at 5:05 a.m. Exactly 3 minutes. Always 3 minutes. I started timing it. 3 minutes and 12 seconds. 3 minutes and 12 seconds. 3 minutes and 12 seconds. The pattern bothered me more than the outage itself. It was as if something was testing us. As if someone, or something, was measuring our reaction time. Or worse, as if we were part of an experiment. On the 3rd night of failures, the rookie, Jace, said he had seen a flash on the horizon toward the forest. He said it didn't look like lightning. It looked like a crack, a kind of cut in the light in the sky, as if the sky had been sewn wrong and the seam was coming apart. We started sending reports to Anchorage. Evelyn formatted the files and sent them via secure channel. We got no response. We tried radio. Nothing. Satellite phone. Silence. But the tower indicated there was a signal. The world seemed to be there, only silent. That's when I received a message. But it wasn't via radio. It was via printer. A piece of paper came out with no sender, No identifiable source. Just one sentence. Don't leave the station. It doesn't want you out. Jace laughed. Evelyn turned pale. I just tore the paper in half. But something told me that warning was real. The station was watching us, or maybe shaping us.
The following night, Jace didn't show up for dinner. We searched his module, the surrounding area, and even the external shelters, but there was no sign of him. Evelyn turned on the external spotlight and scanned the perimeter for almost an hour. When we returned inside, he was there, sitting in the dining hall, eating quietly, as if he had never left. But something was wrong. He was quieter than usual. His eyes seemed deeper, his voice an octave lower, and he didn't remember leaving. He said he spent the whole day sleeping. Evelyn pulled me aside and whispered, "That's not Jace." That night, we locked the bedroom door. I didn't sleep a wink, and for the first time, I regretted accepting that mission.
The sky roared, literally, as if there were a throat in the heavens. Sounds that didn't match wind or ice. Sounds that seemed ancient. Sounds from another world. The barometer went crazy. The anemometer jammed. The snow began to fall sideways. And yet the sky remained cloudless. The station shook slightly. Jace, or whatever was in his place, spent the entire night in front of the window, staring at the horizon. Evelyn locked herself in the server room. She said she was going to analyze the latest data package received. Hours later, I heard screams, and then silence. A silence I will never forget.
The corridor leading to the server room seemed longer that night. The emergency lights pulsed softly red, like a heart beating too slowly. The floor vibrated beneath my feet, not because of some structural failure, but as if the station itself were breathing, dreaming. When I opened the door, I found Evelyn slumped against the wall, her face covered in frozen sweat. Her eyes were open, but unfocused. They didn't blink. She was still breathing, but shallowly, as if trying to stay anchored in this world out of sheer stubbornness. The main monitor displayed a screen full of codes in frequency spectra, an automatic radio analysis. Evelyn had isolated a signal that, according to the header, had been repeating every 6 hours, with almost imperceptible variations. In the center of the screen, 4 words flashed, drawn by a standing wave. "You are the station." For a moment, I thought it was a software error, but the audio was clear. I plugged in the headphones and turned up the gain. There was a modulated voice there, a deep, distorted voice. Familiar. It was Evelyn. She was whispering it at exact intervals, as if she were trapped in a live radio message, but she wasn't speaking. Her lips weren't moving. I stood there in shock. The sounds seemed to come from inside the station, not outside. I looked at Evelyn, and at that moment she moved her eyes and stared at me. Just for a second. But in that second, I realized something that made my blood run cold. She recognized me, but not as Owen. Her eyes said I was something else. She tried to say something. Her lips trembled, but no sound came out. Then, as if an invisible force were squeezing her body, she arched her back, shuddered, and fell sideways, unconscious. I ran to her, checked her pulse. It was weak, but present. I dragged her to the infirmary, trying to understand what it meant. On the way, an idea struck me like lightning. What if the station was trying to communicate through us? What if we were part of the transmission system? I laid Evelyn on the stretcher, covered her with 2 thermal blankets, and ran back to the server room. The transmission logs showed an old pattern.
codes similar to those used in nuclear tests in the 1960s. It wasn't just weather, it was language, it was a command. And most terrifying of all, the main transmitter was turned off. The signal was coming from inside the station, but not from any device. It was as if the structure, the walls, the cables, the concrete, had become a body that emitted thoughts, as if Whittaker Station had become conscious, or had always been.
I spent the night trying to understand what I saw. Jace didn't move from the window. He didn't even blink. When I tried to talk to him, he just kept repeating, "She's waking up! She's waking up!" The system started printing automatic reports, all with a single sentence repeated in several languages. "You are in the wrong layer." The ceiling light flickered. Every time it flashed, I saw different things in the room. Tables moved around, equipment we never had, an old picture of me in the uniform I never wore. Reality seemed to be being rewritten. Evelyn still hadn't come back.
I decided to look for her. The station had a technical corridor that led to the ventilation panels. I went in with a flashlight, but the corridor didn't end. I walked for over 20 minutes and started to see doors that didn't exist. They all had my name on them, and were all locked. When I opened one, I saw the server room. Evelyn was sitting there with her eyes closed. When she turned to me, she said, "We're not the first. This station doesn't measure the weather. It measures time. People's time. The time we still have left."
Evelyn disappeared before my eyes, like dust sucked up by an invisible current. Jace was no longer speaking. When I passed him, his eyes were completely white. I went back to the broadcast room. I switched everything to manual mode. I picked up this recorder, and I started talking. Whittaker Station is not a weather station. It never was. It's a listening post, a landmark between realities, a place where time loses its contours and people become records. If you're listening to this, don't try to find me, but look at the sky. If it's too bright or too dark, then you've crossed the border. The end.